Kato was born in the small village of Moji, nestled deep within the beautiful and expansive kingdom of Azuria. The people of Moji were mostly farmers, and although the land was tough to cultivate, they worked hard every day to grow crops. Kato's parents, Akili and Nyota, were like most of the villagers, living modestly but happily. They loved Kato dearly, teaching him the values of hard work and kindness. From a young age, Kato understood that life was not easy, but he found joy in helping his parents on the farm and playing with the other children in the village. However, when Kato was just 10 years old, tragedy struck. A severe drought ravaged the land, drying up the rivers and making it impossible for crops to grow. The once lively village became desolate, and the people were hungry and desperate. The intense heat took its toll on Kato's parents, who became very sick. Despite the villagers' best efforts to help, Akili and Nyota both passed away, leaving Kato an orphan. The boy was devastated, and although the villagers tried to care for him, they were struggling to survive themselves. Kato felt like a burden and decided to leave Moji in search of a better life. For weeks, Kato wandered from village to village, carrying only a small bundle of his parents' belongings. He relied on the kindness of strangers for food, but he was often lonely and uncertain about his future. One day, while passing through a bustling village, Kato saw a group of royal officials recruiting young boys to work in the Grand Palace of Azuria. Without hesitation, Kato approached them and, with a brave heart, told them his story. The officials, impressed by the boy's determination, decided to take him with them. For the first time in a long while, Kato felt a glimmer of hope. The journey to the capital city was long and tiring, but Kato endured it with patience. As they traveled closer to the heart of Azuria, the scenery began to change. The dry, desolate lands gave way to lush greenery, vibrant flowers, and flowing rivers. When they finally arrived in the capital city, Kato was in awe. The streets were filled with people, marketplaces bustled with activity, and towering buildings lined the horizon. But what amazed Kato the most was the palace. It was the biggest, most beautiful structure he had ever seen, with tall, gleaming towers and sparkling fountains. Life in the palace, however, was not easy for Kato. He was assigned the hardest chores, from scrubbing the vast palace floors to carrying heavy buckets of water for the royal kitchens. The work was physically exhausting, and the palace staff often looked down on him because of his humble origins. But Kato remained undeterred. He knew that this was his chance to build a better future, and he was determined to prove his worth. No matter how difficult the task, Kato tackled it with a positive attitude and an unyielding spirit. At night, when his duties were finished, Kato would sneak into the palace library. The library was vast, filled with ancient books and scrolls that chronicled the history of Azuria. At first, Kato couldn't read, but he was determined to learn. With the help of a kind old librarian who took pity on him, Kato slowly began to grasp the basics of reading and writing. Night after night, he would study the books, devouring knowledge about Azuria's history, military strategies, and the wisdom of past kings. He kept this part of his life a secret, knowing that if anyone discovered him in the library, he would be punished. As the years passed, Kato grew into a young man, both strong and intelligent. His work ethic and determination had earned him respect among the palace staff, but he was still seen as just a servant. However, Kato continued to study in secret, and his knowledge of Azuria's history and governance expanded. One day, while working in the royal garden, Kato overheard a heated discussion among the king's advisors. They were arguing about how to handle a dispute with a neighboring kingdom. Kato, unable to remain silent, offered his opinion on the matter. The advisors were shocked that a servant would dare speak out, but when they listened to Kato's suggestion, they realized it was brilliant. Word of Kato's intelligence and insight soon reached the king, who summoned the young man to his court. The king was impressed by Kato's wisdom and decided to appoint him as a junior advisor. It was an unexpected promotion, but Kato knew this was the opportunity he had been waiting for. He now had a seat at the table where important decisions were made, and he was determined to use his position to help the kingdom. Despite his new role as an advisor, Kato remained humble. He continued to work hard, never forgetting the lessons his parents had taught him. The nobles, who once looked down on him, began to respect him for his wisdom and dedication to the kingdom. Kato's influence grew, and he became known for his ability to solve complex problems and offer sound advice to the king. But even with his success, Kato never forgot his roots. He often thought of his parents and the village of Moji, where his journey had begun. Unfortunately, peace in the kingdom of Azuria did not last forever. One day, the king became very ill, and the palace was filled with worry. The king had no heir, and the question of who would succeed him sparked intense debate among the nobles. Many of them were eager to claim the throne for themselves, and soon, the kingdom was on the brink of chaos. While the nobles fought among themselves, a neighboring kingdom, Vanda, saw an opportunity to strike. Vanda's armies began gathering at Azuria's borders, preparing for an invasion. Kato could see the danger clearly. The kingdom needed a strong and united leader, but the nobles were too busy fighting over power to recognize the threat. Kato tried to warn them, but they dismissed him as just a servant-turned-advisor. Frustrated but determined, Kato knew that he had to find a way to save Azuria from both internal strife and external threats. Late one night, Kato visited the ailing king in his chamber. Kneeling by the king's bedside, he told him of the danger the kingdom faced and urged him to name a successor before it was too late. The king, weak but still wise, asked Kato who he thought should lead the kingdom. Kato knew that this was his moment. He told the king that the kingdom needed a leader who understood the struggles of the people, someone who had the wisdom and courage to unite the kingdom and protect it from its enemies. To the king's surprise, Kato suggested that he, a former servant, should be the next ruler. The king, after much thought, agreed. He had seen Kato's intelligence, bravery, and dedication to the kingdom and knew that he was the right choice. The next morning, the news spread throughout the palace. Kato was to be the new king of Azuria. The nobles were outraged. They couldn't believe that a servant had been chosen to rule over them. Furious, they refused to accept Kato's claim to the throne and began gathering their armies to fight for control of the kingdom. Kato, realizing that he couldn't win this battle alone, decided to seek the support of the people. He traveled from village to village, telling his story and asking for their help. The people, who had grown tired of the nobles' greed and corruption, rallied behind Kato. The day of the great battle arrived. On one side stood Kato, leading an army made up of farmers, villagers, and craftsmen, ordinary people who believed in him and his vision for a just kingdom. On the other side were the nobles, with their well-trained soldiers and expensive armor. The battle was fierce, with swords clashing and arrows flying through the air. Kato fought bravely, using the strategies he had learned from the books in the palace library. He knew that this fight was not just about power, it was about the future of Azuria. As the battle raged on, Kato faced the leader of the nobles in a one-on-one fight. The noble, filled with arrogance, taunted Kato, calling him a mere servant who had no right to the throne. But Kato, with determination burning in his eyes, responded, "I serve the people, and that is why I will win." With a swift and final blow, Kato defeated the noble. Seeing their leader fall, the noble's army began to lose hope and eventually surrendered. The battle was over, and Kato had won not only the throne but the hearts of the people. After the battle, Kato was crowned the new king of Azuria. The people celebrated, cheering for the boy from Moji who had risen to become their leader. Kato, now a wise and just ruler, did not seek revenge on the nobles who had opposed him. Instead, he offered them a chance to join him in rebuilding the kingdom. Many of them, realizing the error of their ways, accepted his offer. Kato's reign marked the beginning of a new era for Assyria, an era of peace, prosperity, and fairness for all. As king, Kato focused on improving the lives of the people. He built new roads, schools, and hospitals, ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background, had access to education and healthcare. He also worked to strengthen Assyria's relationships with neighboring kingdoms, ensuring that the kingdom would be safe from future threats. Under his leadership, Assyria flourished, becoming a beacon of hope and prosperity in the region. Despite his new status as king, Kato never forgot his humble beginnings. He often visited the villages and towns, speaking with the people and listening to their concerns. He remembered the lessons his parents had taught him and made sure that the laws of Assyria were fair and just for everyone. The people loved their king and were grateful for all he had done for them. Kato's story became a legend, passed down from generation to generation as a reminder that true greatness comes from hard work, kindness, and a deep love for the people. King Kato ruled Assyria for many years, and under his guidance, the kingdom continued to prosper. When Kato eventually passed away, the entire kingdom mourned his loss. But his legacy lived on. The people of Assyria continued to tell the story of the servant who became king, a story that inspired future generations to believe in the power of determination, wisdom, and love. Kato's reign became known as the Golden Age of Assyria, and his name was remembered with honor and respect throughout the ages.